So let's say we're going to write a literary analysis paragraph on Bellerophon and Pegasus. And your assignment is going to be to write a literary analysis paragraph. I don't care what you write it on. You could write it on Ender's Game or The Hunger Games or Bellerophon and Pegasus or The Most Dangerous Game or To Build a Fire. You know, any of the stuff that we've read since quarantine as a class is open in terms of your literary analysis paragraph that you're going to write this week. But let's use Bellerophon and Pegasus as an example. It's a short story. It's a Greek myth. You know, and we need to start with a literary assertion. So how do we make an assertion literary? Again, we've got to avoid basing it simply on plot. We've got to look at what the author was intending and how the story is constructed. We want to consider literary elements, things that we've talked about in class, you know, and symbols, figurative language, characterization, you know, plot structure, where's the climax, you know, like those sorts of things. And then we want to make it thematic. We've got to say something about what the theme or lesson of the story is. So, you know, I'm interested in Bellerophon because I think Bellerophon is an interesting character who goes through a major character shift over the course of the story, and I'm interested in that character shift. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go look for quotations that I think are powerful quotations and that I can use to write about Bellerophon and his character change. And you know, maybe I look at the ending of the story, the resolution, and it says, you know, Bellerophon, quote, felt as if mounted on Pegasus, he was as strong and resplendent as even the gods. And then he tries to fly up to Mount Olympus. That's my dog circling in a giant circle and shaking the bed, which is where I have the camera. Sorry about that. But Bellerophon, you know, suddenly feels that he's as great as a god, and he's going to ascend to Mount Olympus on Pegasus, and he starts flying up there, and Zeus shoots a lightning bolt down, and he's blinded and lame, and, you know, like gets this horrible retribution for his hubris. So he's arrogant. But was he always arrogant? Well, we go back and we read, and we find on page 2, a page earlier, he's looking for Pegasus so that he can defeat this chimera, and it says he found that it was a, quote, Herculean labor and of no use to him, a mere mortal to even try, and so he gave up. So there's an acknowledgement by Bellerophon of his own mortality and his inadequacy, and that he could never hope to even catch Pegasus, to say nothing of ascending Mount Olympus. And so he's humble, and he's rewarded for this humility by having divine intervention from Athena. And Athena, you know, gives him the bridle that allows him to tame Pegasus and defeat the chimera. So you have a situation where this hero is humble and gets divine intervention that rewards him, in contrast to a later episode in which this hero is arrogant and gets divine intervention, Zeus having Pegasus throw him, that punishes him. And these two opposites are so clear that they show a dynamic character shift to me. That's what I'm going to use. So I say, okay, that's a great idea. I'm going to write myself an assertion. So I'll say something like, I don't know, Bellerophon is a dynamic character. I want to get that you know, literary term in there. Who makes a transition from humble to arrogant over the course of Lillian Hyde's story. So we get the author's name in there. And he is used to teach the Greek audience the dangers of hubris. So we get a theme in there. So we've got a literary element in there. It's dynamic character. We've got the author in there, and then we've got the idea of hubris or arrogance. So that's what my paragraph's going to be about. So then, you know, maybe I want to use those two contrasting quotes. I want to show, you know, Bellerophon when he's humble and Bellerophon when he's arrogant, and, you know, write my paragraph based on those. So I need to introduce the quotation. What order do I want to put them in? Do I want to start with a resolution and then move back and look at who he was before? I think maybe I do. I think that makes sense. So I would actually start at the end and talk about how he became arrogant, and then I would go back and look at who he was before, and his humility, and then I would talk about how the author, Lillian Hyde, is you know, retelling this Greek myth that was really designed to show the benefits of being humble before the gods and the dangers of being arrogant before the gods, and to induce a Greek audience to be more humble and to be more respectful of their gods. That would be my paragraph. I could pretty easily organize that. I have 2 solid quotations. I could put the whole thing together. It would make sense. But there's other ways I could organize it as well. I could look, for example, there's a word towards the end. Bellerophon is characterized as quote unquote foolish when he's going up to Olympus. It's a foolish thing. And he doesn't realize that he's foolish, and that's the idea of arrogance. Arrogance is a blindness, and he gets punished with blindness, which is ironic, maybe. But he's blind to his own arrogance. Whereas when he was humble at the beginning, he was not foolish. He realized it was foolish to even try as a mortal to get Pegasus. And so we could look at like this word foolish, and we could look at the way that it's used to describe him and his own ability to see his foolishness versus his blindness to his foolishness and how it impacts his behavior. So maybe we could look at something like that. Or we could paraphrase those 2 divine interventions and why they both happen and what their outcome is. That would be another way to get a citation in there. We could also look at, maybe there's a line, it's on page 3, it says, quote, "The chimera could not follow Pegasus into the pure upper air." So, Bellerophon is riding on Pegasus, and he's able to ascend to this pure upper air that the chimera, an evil beast, is not allowed to ascend to. And because the air is pure, I think we could analyze the diction there. Pegasus is a being of purity. There's a lot of Pegasus's silvery neigh and tremulous sound of flutes, and like the color of Pegasus and all this kind of stuff makes Pegasus seem pure and beautiful. And Bellerophon is worthy to ride Pegasus and be carried up into that pure upper air. And so there's this idea that he's pure of heart and good, and that lets him ascend to this super high level. Well, he tries to ascend to Olympus at the end, but he does it in a negative way. And just like Chimera, he cannot ascend to the pure upper air because his motive is arrogance rather than a desire to help people. And so there would be another way to look at his character change. So there's tons of ways that we could put together a paragraph just on the simple topic of Bellerophon's dynamic character change, and lots of things that we could look at and lots of ways we could structure it. And that's what I want you to realize. So really, you just need to have an idea. You need to go fetch the quotes and look them up, and then write your assertion after you've found the evidence to support it. It's way better to do it that way. If you do it the other way, you write an assertion and then you go to the story and you hope to goodness that you can find something to support it. That's a lot more work for you, rather than finding the citations, knowing the evidence that you have, and then going and writing an assertion that fits those pieces of evidence so you can prove it. So don't go backwards into this and come up with an assertion and then hope you can find the evidence. Find the evidence and then craft the assertion. So that's today's task. I'm going to send you off to write a literary analysis paragraph. Pay very careful attention to your assertion, the way that you put it together. Make sure you introduce those quotations with adequate plot context, and you use a couple of quotations, maybe more, in your paragraph. Do not limit yourself to 5 sentences. Don't try and hammer this out to get it done. Remember, the goal, the reason that we take English class is that you become successful writers, successful analyzers, able to read and understand and then convey your impressions and understandings through words. And so just doing it to do it, doing it to check a box and getting it done is not helping you. At the end of the day, you need to be successful in these skills. Yes, you need to be successful for next year's English class, but you need to be successful for college, and then you need to be successful for life. Let me tell you, I worked as a bank teller for years. I was working my way through college, and the people who were stuck in the lowest level jobs in that institution couldn't write. All of their emails were full of errors and mistakes. They looked unprofessional. They didn't have greeting lines and organized sentences in paragraphs and end with a you know, a farewell sort of statement. Like, they were just ugly, and people judged them. I worked for a lot of really, really smart and competent head tellers on the teller lines in banks, but they couldn't write, and they were stuck in this lower management situation. They couldn't move up to middle and upper management because they didn't have the writing skills that told their supervisors that they were intelligent and that they could deal with customers in a virtual setting. The only way they could deal with them was in a setting where they could verbally communicate, not in a setting where they could communicate in writing. And so, you know, all of these skills are enormously important. And instead of doing them so you can get a grade, do them so that you can be successful later. Instead of just trying to get it done to get it done, look at yourself and say, hey, what skills do I have? How do I need to improve these skills? What can I take from this? And how do I learn to better myself? If you do those things, you are going to be successful, not just in school, but in life. If you don't, then, you know, you're treating education like a transaction. You're buying a grade with an individual assignment, and then you're throwing away the receipt. And at the end of the day, you're not growing the way that you deserve to grow. Ultimately, as I've said before, education's on you. What you take away from it, what you learn from it is entirely on you. Yes, I try and provide enriching opportunities. I try and help you grow, but you're the one who takes it. You're the one who internalizes it. You're the one who pushes yourself to achieve. And you can do that. We're not in school. I'm not giving you grades, so it's entirely on you now. And that's a good thing. That's an exciting thing, because maybe you can make a shift. And maybe this shift can carry over into next year and the year after. And you can continue to elevate yourself while everybody else is treading water, just doing what's minimally required. We can hope. Anyway, I will get you feedback. You send it to me. I will try and give you line-by-line feedback and help you grow as a writer. And I wish you all a wonderful rest of the week. Yeah, and I hope your quarantine's going okay. We're doing fine here. Really can't complain about much. I'll see you later.